boy, do I have a funny story to tell you this week. So, I just got back from a work trip. It was a really cool experience and it was a really good opportunity. I got to go and learn from this like legend in the education field. There's a room full of 150 people. We're all kind of sandwiched in. I'm setting the stage so you can really appreciate what I'm about to tell you.
Okay.
So we're all sort of like, shoulder to shoulder in this tiny room. And I've been tasked to go around and like be a monitor and write things down. Then we go up front, and we share and stuff. It's a very interactive training. 5 days, 8 hours, shoulder to shoulder with a bunch of people. And Wednesday, as we're walking in, I get a phone call from my children's school, and they are requesting that I come pick them up because they have lice. And so I'm like, well, I am about to go into a training. I'm going to need you to call their dad. He's going to have to come pick them up. And so Jeff goes and gets them. And, sure enough, like the whole house has lice. Jeff has lice.
No way.
Yes. And so, here I am. I'm like, well, Jeff's like texting me and he's like, there's like zero chance you don't have it, Jenny. Like we all three have it. He's like, I'll be shocked. And like he's already made me an appointment for Saturday when I get home. He's like, the lady also said she'd be shocked. And so here I am, I've just been just waving this hair around in this tiny room with all these other people. And I'm like, oh my God, if I have given these people lice, I'm going to die. Like, just cannot tell you. I was freaking out. My colleague takes me in the bathroom. She's going through my hair. She's like, I don't see anything, Jenny. I don't see anything.
My God.
I'm like, okay. But I mean, like, have you ever had lice?
Hell no. No, I don't know how I
Yeah,
haven't because
no,
I
I
have all
made
these
it.
extensions and use these brushes and everything else. But no, I don't
I
know.
mean,
I
I made it
haven't.
almost 43 years without
Right.
having lice. Almost, right? And we got to destigmatize this because what I have learned is that, like, it is a sign of cleanliness because they love clean hair. Maybe that's
Okay.
what's saving you.
That's why I don't have it. I never wash this mop. That's why I don't have them. They're not interested in this toxic mess that hasn't been washed in a week. So
Oh
saved by
God.
grace.
Um, yeah. So I mean, it's not like a sign that you're dirty or you don't. They actually prefer clean hair, and it's like head to head contact. You basically like have to put your head on somebody's head that has
Okay.
lice, and then
Yeah.
you're gonna get it. They don't like fly across the room and like spread their wings. But it's just that feeling of like it
Bugs.
gets in your head. And so, like, the whole time, mind you, I have 3 more days to sit through these trainings. And I'm literally like, it's like I had fleas. Like, I couldn't stop scratching. And I was just mortified on the inside. And my, colleagues, it's a bunch of educators, thankfully, they're all like, oh, I started telling everyone around me, I'm like, FYI, both my kids have lice. My husband has it. I probably have it too. Just don't get near me. Can you imagine what they were thinking? Yeah, so great time. It was such a great experience, minus the fact that I had lice.
Did you really
Because
have
I
them?
sure did. I was a winner too. So, yeah, we have deloused our house. I mean, literally every person I've talked to, they're all like, "Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah." Like we've had it a ton. So they like they put basically this like olive oil on your scalp, and they comb through with the tiniest comb, and they get all the eggs out and all the like live bugs. Thankfully, I didn't have any live bugs. I only had like 10 eggs in my hair, but yeah, they go through it with a fine tooth comb. I'm not even going to tell you how many they found in my kid's hair because it would make you want to vomit. And then I literally bought every product that they own to keep us safe from lice ever again. Somebody told me at the school, they were like, oh, yeah, that whole class has been out with lice. And I'm like, well, it would have been nice to know. Like, could you have sent like a letter home? But nonetheless, part of today's topic is really talking about shifts. And we have covered this somewhat in previous episodes, but I think now we're a little bit further into our new roles and careers and things that we want to do. And so just kind of talking about how we've made shifts in our midlife.
Yeah, definitely. And just, I think what it comes down to is just sensing that a change is needed and then taking the steps, whatever they might be, into doing it. Even if they're
Which is so
uncertain.
hard.
Yeah, yeah. There's not like a steady ground beneath you, or there's not even necessarily a clear direction except you need to get out. Like, what is it
Hmm.
then that you kind of shift to? Um, and it just really, I think, takes at the very beginning just listening to yourself that a change is needed, you know?
Yeah. Which I think is really the hardest part. I've watched friends do the same thing, and they're like scared. Everybody's scared to death, especially when you're leaving something something that is consistent, and you're trying something new. And I've got friends going through it right now. I've had friends that gone through it. I certainly went through it. And you're like, I don't know. I mean, for me, I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I just know that I can't do this anymore. I had no clear direction on what I was gonna do. I just knew that I needed to shift completely from the role of being a school psychologist. I needed to find something else. Um, like I had a friend that went from working at the Chamber of Commerce and she went into real estate. Again, she went from like that steady paycheck to all of a sudden, like, you're responsible to make sure you get a paycheck. Like, you got to make some sales here. And so, again, very scary. Like, I've got another friend that's really considering a private practice, and you're
Mm,
walking away from like your health insurance and that steady income. And that to me is the hardest decision, is making like the gut check of like, can I do this? Can I make this work? Um, is it really worth it to me? But I feel like it is for the people that make the shift. Don't you agree?
yeah, I mean, I definitely don't regret it. I think so much of who we are ends up getting, and we mentioned this, but just wrapped around a title or something that we've
Hmm.
worked so hard to kind of earn or establish ourselves in. And then it becomes even harder to leave because it's like it's a different part of ownership of who we are. Like it owns
Yeah,
us too by that. Like
for
not
sure.
just that we identify as being
Hmm.
that person or in that role, but then it owns us because it has literally dictated so much of our life for such a long period of time. And then to
Yeah.
just transition away from or give up entirely, it is a big thing to kind of be willing to just extend outward and away from that. So
Hmm. Yeah.
it's it's not easy. And I think that whenever you go through it, like especially for me, whenever I was leaving the entire title role, everything that I had done, created, relationships that I had built, mentors, the
Hmm.
university that I worked with, all of it. The day that I was leaving, I was just like, I'd never had the feeling like it before, but in that moment, it was just like an overwhelming sense of just like, I don't know, like it was a huge release. Like I just remember sitting there like crying my eyes out for a good like, I don't know, 20 minutes. And I was just like, it just surprised me that I had that
Yeah.
kind of moment with it
Such big
because
feelings.
yeah, I had already packed up all my stuff and everything else, but at that moment, I was signing off essentially on being Dr. Sarah Stevens, which I had been for like 20 some years, it seemed like. And that was a lot to have done with a lot of responsibility that you just kind of put down and just literally walk away from, like walk out the door and then
Yeah.
it's done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. And I love that you say that. It does become so much of our identity and it like owns us. And I think about a friend that's going through a change, and she's been an administrator in schools and a damn good one, and worked really hard at it. And she's going to go back to a role. It was kind of looked as like a step backwards, right? Going back to being a teacher. But so much of what we do gets wrapped up in our ego. And it's hard to let go of like, well, can I, you know, go from being the boss to like having somebody tell me what to do, and like having
Hmm.
just a different role. I think is so hard for many people, um if you're looking for a change, because chances are you're going to have to like start over, right? You got, especially
Yeah.
if you're doing a big change and walking away, you've got to kind of start from the ground up again with whatever you choose. And there's something, in my opinion, that now having been through it is so exciting and humbling, because you're like, okay, maybe I don't know everything. You kinda need the carpet ripped out from under you to realize those things sometimes, because we just get so set in our ways and what's easy for us. But man, is it exciting when, like, something scares you. You've heard me say that before, like, if it scares me, then it's a yes, it's a hell yes. But you gotta get to that point. But I think there's a lot of us that go through that of, like, "Do I really wanna do this my entire career? 40 years invested in this?"
Yeah. There's my husband was sharing this with me the other day, and he's really been kind of focused on this idea for a bit of I think it's on a TED Talk. I'll try to link it to our website so that way you can find this like snippet. But the person who we were whenever we decided our career path, oh, like you're like the relationships, all of the who we were at that one point in time is not who we are today. In fact, that
Yes.
person is so much of a stranger to us that how can we expect ourselves today to hold on to the ideas, beliefs,
Mhm.
relationships, whatever that we started
Yes.
7, 10, 20 some years ago? Like, that's not even a
Yeah.
healthy or fair expectation for us to necessarily have. And
Mm-mm.
so,
Right.
applying that to like our careers, whenever we start to have kids or, different things happen within our life, that's all changing the recipe of who we are, which is not the
Mhm.
base in which we started with. So maybe it tasted good then, but it ain't tasting so great now. And we need,
Right.
something else at that
Yeah.
point. Um, and it goes on and like he talks about it too. And he even like gave a wedding speech about this. Like we just went to a wedding and he got to speak at it. He said, the person who you are marrying today in 7 years from now is you're basically committing to being with a stranger now for the rest of your life because you change so much. And if you and your
Mhm.
partner don't kind of change and develop together, then it
Together.
just
Yeah.
creates that, yeah, that kind of separation. And, um,
Mhm.
who you are married to 10 years ago, 15 years ago is not who you're married to today. But how
Right.
aligned are you both? And how much are
Right.
you working towards keeping that alignment, or has life and other circumstances just changed so much of it that now it's like, again, it's just almost like a stranger kind of being in the same space. There's the familiarity with it, but it's not the same thing or the same person. And it just comes down to,
Mhm.
that kind of introspective process to see that. And to not blame yourself for wanting to change or feeling like a
Something
failure
different.
because you're not. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's so true because we pick these careers or whatever you choose to do, if you're a stay-at-home mom, whatever, you pick these things or you decide as a couple what you're going to do. And then all of a sudden, like you do that for a decade and a half, and then you're like, oh, you're right. Like you are a different person and you want different things. And I think at this point, we're both 43, almost 43 over here. You are 43 this point, you've experienced some loss in life. You've had some great successes. You've had some great failures, and I think those things ultimately do change your perception and like what's important to you. All of a sudden, being the best at work isn't, maybe your goal anymore. So maybe not. Maybe you're one of the lucky ones that's still totally in love with the career you chose. God bless you if that's the truth. But I think that so many of us, I mean, just maybe my sample size of friends, so many of us have gone through this exact situation.
Mhm. And I think that that's again, it's just I think it's a sign of growing like more confident in ourselves, maybe in like in our decision making and our self-realization and taking healthier steps towards
Mhm.
that kind of movement or goal. And if not, like you said, and you're one of the lucky ones, then you've done some things along the way that has continued to fill your cup. And so you've made
Yeah.
adjustments, but may just not be as aware of them in order to keep that, kind of fire burning within you. And I mean, there's a big cheers to be said about that too. But at some point, it just, maybe other shifts have happened in your life. Maybe you maintained the career because that was what was fulfilling or that was the purpose kind of driven thing, but other shifts within your life, with kids, relationships, all of that have probably changed at that point. So, I
Yeah.
mean,
I also think it's important to keep an eye on like little shifts can be big shifts. You might stay in the same field, but you've switched your role. What it can be subtle shifts, but like really getting down to, okay, what is it that I want to do every day? What's sort of lighting me up? And um, that's one thing I've learned the most in this pivot in my career is like, there's so many other things out there. And to think that you have to stick with one thing, really what we have is a skill set, right? We go to college and graduate school or what to to gain skills to then turn around and use in all these different types of careers. So I think when we start to focus on, all right, really, what's my skill set? What am I good at? What do I enjoy doing? So I've just really, if anybody's on the fence thinking like, oh, I've been thinking about something else or I need a change, like I hope you use this as your sign to
Mhm.
just leap. Even if you don't know what you want to do, take the leap
Yeah.
and go for it because
Right.
I think it's so rewarding to just a, if nothing else, prove to yourself you can do it. You can always go
Mhm.
back to what you were doing. Always go back to it.
And ways to pivot. Yeah, and ways to kind of like, it is tough, but I mean, I think whenever I was going through some of it, that meant that if I knew that I was on a path where I needed to change, then I needed to utilize like my family resources a little bit more or
Yeah.
differently, in
Yeah.
order to, if I needed to take night classes, if I needed to, spend a weekend away at a seminar to get a different certification or something, then I needed to pivot and utilize a little bit more support, spend a little bit more time doing something away from other things in order to make
Yeah.
sure that I could continue on that path or goal that I was working on at that point in time. And so, even at that point, it might mean that we are, you know, pivoting towards surrendering a little bit more control at our house or with our kids,
Hmm.
or, even within a current job where we might need to put down or delegate more or transition something too. Um,
Yeah.
but to continue, I think you just got to continue to push in those areas. So it is scary. It can be, or it can be really exciting. And that's the way that, again, there's no difference between fear and excitement, from a bodily standpoint. Physiologically,
I love
same
when you
thing.
say that.
Yeah, I know.
I
It's
tell
so
my
true,
kids
though.
that all the time now. But
Really?
I find myself getting excited for the friends that are going through this right now. A few that I can think of off the top of my head, they are really making some big pivots in their life.
Hmm.
And I am so excited for them because I'm like, I know what's about to come. Like you're really going to experience, I truly believe you're going to experience like something even better if you're willing to take the risk, right? Nothing
Yeah.
comes at us that we can't handle. And so I find myself getting really excited for them, but I do remember that fear of like what
Mm-hmm.
just all the things, the comfort, like walking away from anything that's comfortable or easy or routine is just hard. Um, but what's on the other side of that discomfort is so much more exciting. So um,
Right.
I'm a I'm a great cheerleader for those type of people that are like, I just don't know if I should do it. I'm like, call me.
Yeah.
I will talk you into it.
Right. We've got this. Trust me. This is going to be great. Yeah,
You are going
definitely.
to thrive. I promise. Because
Right.
I think anytime you do that, follow your heart, follow what's really like your, deepest desire. Like, how can you lose at that?
No, you can't. I think so many of us go through this at this age because, maybe we've spent the first, 10 to 15 years, of our 20s, 30s, and into our 40s, not only building our career, but building our family and other things. And so when
Hmm.
external transitions start to happen, like losing a job or your kids graduating from high school or, entering the workforce, those are transitions too. And that's
Yeah.
going to, I mean, it can feel like an earthquake or you can be prepared for the shift. And so it really takes us, I think, being aware that, there are certain circumstantial life changes that are going to happen.
Hmm.
And maybe us maintaining what we're doing now, then we'll feel uncomfortable during that time. It's sustained for that period. But then whenever, the kids leave or whenever you find that you have more, time and don't have to worry about doing like 10 different loads of laundry, then
Yeah.
other
Unless you
things
get
might
lice.
right, right, and that. Right, there's always that. No, I'm itching to go. But yeah, no, every time. Um, but then you're just gonna have to recognize that maybe what was sustaining at that point in time, maybe there's another, to use the term, itch that's creeping up,
Yeah.
that now you realize that something else may not fit or be right because there's been some type of, again, external change within your network. And then that's going to take us just kind of exploring that as well, and seeing what kind of role that takes.
what comes next. I did have a neighbor that she was in a similar line of work as I was. I remember her telling me she's like in her 50s and she's like there she had been applying for jobs and she was like ageism is definitely a thing. And she was like
Mhm.
especially as a woman. And so I do think it's important to consider if you even think you might want to make a change in career to really think about that in your late 30s and early 40s. Um, because I do think that unfortunately that's something that women have to deal with is ageism. And, um, if you can get kind of your foot in the door at a younger age, um, that could be beneficial.
Mhm. Mhm. And even if you end up going back to it, maybe you just needed to get out of it for that moment, or you needed to
Hmm.
realign with something else in order for you to, be better at it than what you were before. Like, I
Hmm.
think that that's also a piece. Sometimes you just get too entrenched in something and it's not, you don't know that you're entrenched in it until you get out of it.
Absolutely. And you don't realize maybe the poor coping skills that you're using or just like the impact of the chronic stress that it has on your life. Like, that's really it's really hard to see it when you're in it. You're just trying to survive day to day. Like you're just going through the motions in a lot of ways. And then you have a minute to breathe and really look back and you're like, wow, I should have maybe paused a little bit sooner than I actually did. But you live and learn, right?
Yeah,
Point
here, here.
is, you eventually pause, you eventually take care of yourself and say, all right,
Mm-hmm.
it's my turn to figure things out. So I hope that it gets people at least thinking about it. And
Mm-hmm.
your teacher, God knows, don't leave the profession because we need you.
Except you
But
guys,
anybody
you all have to
else?
stay, right?
But maybe look at
My,
how you shift that too. That, like I said, it doesn't have to be something huge. You could go to a different school. You could teach a different grade level. Like anything that challenges you um, is important. And I am certainly guilty of that in my career. Like I went on autopilot after I had kids, and I was just cruise control. And boy, was it having its impact on me. I think just recognizing that it comes back to that reflection piece of like, am I good? Are my coping skills good? Am I showing up the way I want to show up? Like, I no, that wasn't my case anyway, but it took some heartache to get to that point to recognize that.
yeah, and it does. And you're right. Autopilot is meant to be temporary and not a long time,
Right.
but we don't even recognize it so much whenever we're doing it because there's something about that consistency that
Hmm.
we think breeds the
Hmm.
comfort within it.
Yes.
It's just, yeah, it doesn't work long term.
No. No,
Oh,
ma'am, as we
no,
say here in
ma'am.
the South. No,
No,
ma'am.
ma'am. No, ma'am. Mm-mm.
Well,
Using those
if this is
manners.
you and you find yourself on the fence, then let this be a sign to take the leap of whatever it is,
The universe has
and let
spoke
us
to you.
know. Yeah, reach out to us. You can find us on our website. You can find us at lilaspodcast.com. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at the Lilas Podcast. What's Facebook? Lilas Podcast LLC. We had to change it
Yep.
because we got hacked and we can't get back in the old account. But
Nope.
if you go to our website, you can find all of our handles and you can text us directly. So let us
Mm-hmm.
know if you've got some ideas you want to chat about. If you are making a big jump, we want to hear about it. So send us a message. We'd love to chat with you.
Absolutely. Love all the ideas. They get used too. So
They
most
do.
everything that gets said gets used.
True story. All right, y'all. That's all I got for this week. Until next week, Lilas.
Yeah.